This is the One Up Radio Network, and now GFW Radio.
Hello and welcome to GFW Radio. This is the podcast for March 20th, 2007, and for the first time in so many weeks, we're all back together, the whole editorial staff of GFW Radio. Put my glasses down, Ryan. And I'm here with the staff, which includes
Ryan Scott,
Darren Gladstone,
Sean Elliott,
Sean Malloy.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Ryan and I are, thank you. Ryan and I are sporting, unlike you two, our brand new official Games for Windows, the official magazine, the official track jacket.
Way to be team players.
Yep. I feel in the spirit wearing this jacket here. I'm feeling gung-ho about Games for Windows.
It's filling the room.
People say that Microsoft's not behind this initiative.
There. It's like I could imagine you guys are like on the way to the Toyota factory or whatever to doing your calisthenics before you start the day.
We might work out together later, right, Ryan?
Actually, I was thinking more like a breakdance. I was thinking more like a breakdance crew kind of tracksuit you got going on.
Yeah, we could breakdance later, then work out.
Go up against EGM.
Yeah,
we're awesome.
So people are saying that Microsoft's not really pushing this Games for Windows initiative hard enough, but apparently they haven't seen the official track jackets.
You need proof?
So in your face.
Everyone.
Okay, so hi, everyone. I heard the last couple podcasts that I wasn't on were great, which tells me something. So
who told you that?
The message boards did.
Oh.
So I'm just going to shut up. You guys take it.
No, this isn't going to work.
No.
Okay, so we've been talking before. We got a lot to talk about today, in fact. We're going to hear Sean's opinions, long-awaited opinions. Shawn Elliott's on S.T.A.L.K.E.R, because he's reviewing it for us in the next issue. We're going to talk about Peggle, early Game of the Year contender.
Damn you, PopCap.
We're going to answer some reader questions.
IL-2. We got IL-2.
IL-2. We're going to talk IL-2. Uh-huh. I know what that stands for.
I just wanted to say
still
ill.
trying to figure it out.
This game is ill.
And but we had a couple philosophical issues we've been battering around here the last week or so here at the magazine.
Indeed.
It worked out well. Like last week, I was hoping to bring these up, but I kind of wanted to draw on your experience because the first one involves something that you were the one that told me about it.
Yeah.
So
it happened over at GDC.
So the theme here, both of them are instances where people that are in the industry or people that do make games for a living have publicly said that people in our position who write about games for a living can't do a few things, or there's a few things we're not qualified to do. So the first one, I'll let you take it from here, is in short that we can't review or critique a game without having made a game for ourselves.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
No.
So go ahead and...
That's wrong.
Right. This showed up. We were...
But bring up... Yeah, I mean,
Ryan
Where
Scott
did you
and
hear
I,
this, and how did you
we
hear
heard this at the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco 2 weeks ago. So that part of the story is a bit old news, but I wasn't around here to talk about that. But Ryan and I had attended a conference at the Game Developers Conference, a roundtable of game developers mostly, and there were a few journalists, talking about the subject was game criticism. And it basically turned into a kind of lots of developers bitching about how shitty game reviews are these days, which for the most part they're right. But one point that came up was, which was agreed upon, it got some huzzahs around the table, was these guys, meaning us, are not really qualified to review video games because they don't know anything about what it takes to make a game like this. They haven't been there. They don't know what it's like to program. They don't know what it's like to do 3D art. They don't know what it's like to write dialogue for game characters. So who are they to judge whether a game is good or not?
It didn't. Surprisingly, I think you told me that at least one member of the press was sort of, yeah, these guys know what they're saying.
Well, he's the one who brought it up.
No, he wasn't the one who brought it up, but he quickly assented to when that point was brought up. It was somebody who actually not only worked for the press, but they worked for One Up.
At one point.
And he was sort of like, yeah, you're right. So, and I was like, what? What the fuck are you talking about?
When I heard it...
Because I don't know what it's like to spend $50 on a game that's total crap.
Well, see, that's
absurd.
Of course, that's the main point. We do know what it's like to spend $50 for a game. We are writing from the point of view of a game player, which is who they're marketing and selling those games to. People who play games.
First, on just a note, I mean, before you even need to elaborate, you can just make a few comparisons, and it seems to
right,
make a
and
great
they're
deal of
obvious
sense.
ones. But go ahead.
It's like, to be able to say anything good or bad about a television show or a movie or a comic book or a song, do you need to have made any of those things yourself? And that's on an artistic level. On a mechanical level or a technical level, say if you're a fighter pilot or something, do you need to have manufactured a plane yourself or designed a plane to test a plane and say, hey, this is useful, this is going to be good for me under the circumstances that it was created to be used in? So
it's backwards logic.
That's pretty, that makes it clear. But at the same time, like you said, we do know what it's like to have bought a game. And because these guys actually, I would argue that in some ways that they're probably less qualified to review games having worked on them. And I'm not saying they're not qualified. I don't want to reverse this and say you can't. If you've made a game, you can't review a game. But just this, if you follow me here for a second, because you know and you appreciate the difficulties involved in all these things, and you are going to be sympathetic to those.
You're totally going to go easy on them.
You're going to go easy on them in ways that an average consumer just does not give a shit about.
Yeah.
Because they don't care about, okay, well, it is extraordinarily difficult to stream this kind of, information packet under these circumstances. Or they just don't care.
Right.
All they see is this game fun? Is it doing, does that guy's face look like a melted mannequin? Whatever it comes down to.
If so, plus 1 star.
Right. And we all are experts at playing games.
Right.
And enjoying games,
Right.
So,
we take it actually even a step further, which only further proves the point you're making, which is that we won't let someone review a game here if we feel that they're too close to the development team as it is. Like if I know somebody has like, what was that, Shawn?
No,
some kind of bodily
some gas
function.
eruption on that.
I don't know where it came from.
I puked in my mouth a little bit.
The freaking geyser coming up there.
It tasted like rotten McDonald's.
Awesome. Where were we?
What were you talking
Okay.
about?
If we know somebody
close to the developer.
is close to the developer, we don't want them to review the game because we think, like if you've been to see whoever, like Darren, okay, you've now gone to see the guys making a Hellgate, a couple times now.
Mm-hmm.
I would be not inclined to have you review the game because you've been hanging out with those guys. You know what they've been doing. I don't mean even on a friend basis, but even just seeing them do the work makes me think you might be more inclined to give them a break.
That's another story, though. I'm saying, my argument was that if you know all the ins and outs of the development in general, and you're sympathizing with just how difficult it is to do it. Mm-hmm. But I think in that case, it's really like you want to insulate our critique against like sort of nepotism or something. You don't want if we gotten too close to the project or something.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, if you're saying the circumstances it was created in, I don't know. That's another story because it is interesting. Because I do know for a story I'm working on now that PR people will actively try to guarantee that it is the writer who spent the most time previewing and visiting, the developers that are making a game. That's the same person who actually does the review.
It's funny. It swings either way because there are games. Whatever with Hellgate, but there are some games that I know I followed really closely. And then when the game finally came out, and I actually was on board to review something, I was actually harder on it than a lot of people because I saw the potential that was blown early on.
Right. Well, you're right. Maybe it's a different topic. The basic one you're saying is that we brought up in the first place, I think is right. And listen, it applies to every single aspect of the entire world of art. Painting, architecture, music. None of the professional critics anywhere, I shouldn't say none.
Right.
But in general, the average critic is not someone who came from that field.
Right.
Their field was actually journalism.
And it's an age-old, far older than games. For people that have been critics of novels, literary critics and everything else. A version of this argument has been around for ages. But it was just really, I don't know, it's kind of stunned me to hear that coming out of this, this games development conference, that there's something so idiotic as that. And then not only that, you didn't just hear someone in the snack line, a dude whose nickname is Little Big Planet because he weighs 400 plus, getting himself a churro or something. You didn't hear him mumble that, but there was time, there's space and time set aside for the purpose of saying that you can't comment or critique a game unless you've produced a game.
Well, really, the whole roundtable was a bit. I don't know. What did you think, Ryan?
I don't know. They kept like dancing around all this stuff that they couldn't really quantify.
Yeah,
it sounds. I wasn't there, but it sounds like a bunch of like irate coders who worked on games that got panned in the press in their eyes unfairly.
It was sort of like you remember that
ugly.
that there is no Lester Bangs of video games.
Right, there was a lot of that going on.
It was like that, and
there's no Lester Bangs, there's no Roger Ebert at the games industry. I mean, it was just a lot of stuff that you could take apart in 10 different ways.
Okay, so basically, one of us has to make Beyond Valleys of the Doll the game, or something. I mean, like
only then
will we
do we know how to do this.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like that point that we can't critique games unless we know what it is to make them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like them just begging, like, well, why don't you just give everybody an A for effort? Right? I mean, that's what that boils down to.
Kinda. Yeah.
I'd say that's fair. That's another.
I made a text adventure as a child.
Maybe we should. Maybe we should have a separate grade for
effort category.
Give everybody a gold star.
The effort. So the other thing that we were told comes from, and this has been sort of beaten to death, but I think that at least I wanted to comment on it and see what you guys say, because I think it was a slightly different thing to say about it. This is Dennis Dyack of Silicon Knights, which is making Too Human for Xbox 360, was on EGM Live, just the EGM podcast. It wasn't even last week. It was a week
2 weeks
before, right?
Was it 2 weeks ago? Yeah.
I think
So that's how old played out this is. But anyway, part of the whole thing that caused such a sensation on there was that he took EGM to task for having an opinionated preview, and it's different. Like, I want to take it more general and say, because I think his argument was the very notion of an evaluative preview is kind of pointless. It's kind of stupid. There's like a whole sub argument there about it being about the way that it appeared, because that was EGM's E3 issue, and it appeared in the context of an E3 feature, and their logic on that, of course, is that for the same reason that you see all these the same developers, like I'm sure whoever publishes, it's not Dyack's doing, but whoever publishes game, if they won some E3 Judges Awards, they'll be more than happy to put those on the box or on the promotional website or something. Hey, we won. So more and more people put playable product at the show floor in a way to be expect it to be evaluated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just the assumptions there. If you can win an award,
right,
someone's evaluating your stuff. So it's like, I don't accept the award.
You have judges.
But so in the larger scheme of things, though, I agree with them in this sense. You don't. It would be, and this is, and we talked about this before on the show. I felt like, okay, they're just going right where we've been, in that it's so dumb to write a preview and talk about how the frame rates are coming along or how such and such technical aspects of the game need to be addressed. Right. I mean, it's just the same as if you're writing a preview for Entertainment Weekly of whatever movie, King Kong or something, and you talked about how, well, right now there's people running around and screaming in front of a green screen, but we have every reason to believe that in 6 months' time, a large gorilla will take the place of that screen, and we'll be grabbing these people. So that is completely stupid, and I agree with it. However, that said, the essence of the game, so to speak, or whatever the design of the game, I think is totally, we're totally able to comment on it and evaluate it.
Right.
Not only, it's not even a matter of if we are or not. We just do it. It's a matter of if we own up to it or not. Like, whenever, say, companies come in here, this is going to get us in trouble. I won't name any names, but say a company comes here, they come to our floor, and we have one up here, Electronic Gaming Monthly, Games for Windows Magazine, and if there's a demo, if it's something that's caught people's eye, it might be the pedigree, or it might be just the premise of the game or whatever, but everyone's in there, and they want to see it. And then there are times when there's like no one in there. There's like one person like goes in there just because they feel obligated to.
It's kind of like Russian roulette.
And they're already
the rest of us are all hiding.
So at that point, you're already evaluating things to the extent where you can say, okay, if this is a game, like, here's another case. They brought in Elvion a while ago, and this game it's got every chance of becoming something cool, a 360 and PC game. It's based on fighting and whatnot. But looking at it, I immediately said, this is a hack and slash game where you run around and there's no puzzle solving or anything to break the monotony. So it's entirely going to come down to how engaging it is to fight. However, although there's combo systems in place and stuff like that, you could do more than just mash A. It seemed oblivious to what God of War has done, what even Devil May Cry has done to Ninja Gaiden, what these other games have done, and what the price of entry has since changed to in this category of game. And immediately I can say, well, my gut so far as it says this is not going to be, if this is all there is to it, no, it's not going to be. And you could say it's going to change, but so many times, and we don't talk about these things, we're proved right. Other people review it and they say, well, that's interesting. That was exactly what I was wondering about, 12 months ago or something like that. So in cases like those, I think you can. It's not a conclusive. It's not there's always the element of that a game can change. I mean, if it's a preview, that's the whole no-show. It's a work in progress,
Right.
But you can. I do think. I mean that we can do it. Not only that. Here's another point. Game companies, Ubisoft, EA, for example, will employ people full time. They're called game evaluators. And what they do, and I was actually offered a position at a major publisher before I decided to work for GFW, for CGW. And part of that was doing, writing mock evaluations and talking to people basically, and this is based on anything from a very primitive version of a game to just a design document. We're already at that phase. They're wanting you to evaluate, not just, is this a product category that people are willing to buy? Is it going to make us money? But does this have any chance of being cool, of being a good game? And if they're already doing that, the publishers are already doing that and employing people full time to do that. Again, I just think it reinforces the idea that you can do something. You can make some judgment calls.
Well, they just don't want it
before.
unless it's positive.
Right.
But I don't know. I think sometimes in the past we've run evaluative to a degree previews, and we'd made a comment, and that actually got. I can't remember the exact example right now, but I made a comment about something that needed to be fixed in a game, and by the time the game came out, they actually made that exact change. I'm like, well, good. I'm glad in some small way. I'm glad that game got fixed. If not by my saying it, then at least a billion other editors who probably said the same thing. So, I mean, I think there is some merit to it as long as you balance it out and not make it like, okay, the game's going to suck because of this. Just as long as
Right.
I view it as constructive criticism.
Just the pieces. You have to figure out which pieces are the ones that are important, and
Right.
the most likely to not change by the end is the design decisions made from the beginning. Same like if you read a script for a movie, to bring it back to another art form, you could say, all right, you can read the King Kong script, and you know certain things about the movie, whereas like if you saw the green screen, you would just kind of dismiss that and say, of course they're going to fix it, but you can't really. The script's what it is. You know what it's going to be.
And
that's the really dumb part about our
that's a problem
about our industry is that I mean, because we're halfway between like technical pages and art critics,
Like the immaturity of the critics at this point. They just haven't quite figured out how to where to fall on that spectrum, and they sometimes get so wrapped up in the eye candy they forget about
I think
the
it's
story.
the immaturity of the entire business. The one good point that somebody made at that Game Critics Roundup that I thought was interesting was, and maybe kind of true, was he said that because so much of what happens with new games and new generations of games is technology based,
right?
That the writing about it gets lost in that. And he said it's as if somebody were to review a movie in 1950 and basically be reviewing CinemaScope.
Yeah.
Or Technicolor.
Exactly. The engine's equivalent. Yeah.
As opposed to the actual, content. And that maybe if there becomes a point, and maybe will never be a point though, but where games kind of stabilize, where we're not just talking about the technology all the time, that we can sort of get beyond that being, the bullet point list that we go through.
Right. I mean, that's the assumption in every category in every aspect of games. I mean, that's when you'll start getting more. And I'm not saying that you don't have games that have just really rich and vibrant art design now as opposed to graphics, but you'll get more of that. It's no longer going to be about just proving that you actually look good, but then you can stop worrying about that. You start worrying about the story, start worrying about, the AI to a greater extent than you ever have. And quality of interaction and all these other things. Whereas like right now, I mean, it's a well-known fact. What one of the chief selling points of a game is how good it looks, and we can go all the way back to, I mean, some of the best looking pieces of shit that have ever been greenlit.
Yeah.
Mad Dog McCree exists. We can bring that up. Don't hurt anyone's feelings.
Dragon Slayer.
Mad Dog McCree.
Well, Dennis Diak's point, though, I mean, they, those developers basically just want to see you lavish praise on their games.
Yeah,
That's all it is.
Yeah, to his credit, I think he did say. I mean, what did he say? That he was for. He says he is for harsher criticism and whatnot. And again, it's like the point. I don't want to rehash everything about that. I mean, there have been tons of threads all over and 2 podcasts focusing on that, and I just kind of wanted to address that specific aspect of it. But
it's really the reason why most of us hate writing previews, because you're so caught in between this notion of you want to be fair to the game. It's not done.
Mm-hmm.
It's not done. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to be too harsh on it, because that would be a little unfair.
Right.
Yet on the other hand, we're not hired by EA or Ubisoft or whoever to do their PR for them. Mm-hmm. It's not our job to just give them publicity. We're trying to tell other gamers about this game, right? And that's hard to do in a way. It's like you're saying, it's almost by necessity you have to put some kind of opinion into there. Otherwise, let's just reprint their press release,
And to a large degree, that's how it used to be. I mean, it's only in the past few years that people are finding, at least we've always been pretty good about it, but by and large, bloggers, websites, some other magazines that shall remain nameless, pretty much just reposted, press releases.
There is a case.
In some cases, it actually was a press release. It was an actual.
I mean, the magazine's gone now, but it was called PSE2, PlayStation Extreme.
Oh, that was my favorite example.
And they had the Transformers cover story, and I was reading it. When I first started in this business, I'd read everything. But so I was reading it, and I was like, "Wait a minute, this sounds familiar." And as I was reviewing the same game, and I had just gotten all the press materials for it along with the review, and I was like, "Wait a minute." So I went and I pulled the press release out, and I held it up against the page, and they had pasted about 600, 700 words maybe into the story direct, not even piecemeal, not even like a paragraph here or that, but just a block that big. If you took just this giant block of text and hit paste, and then you just wrote around it.
Wow.
And for one, I mean, that's just sad, but I mean, and on so many levels, even stylistically, that no one's going to notice that it's not a Frankenstein job, because your writing is so indistinguishable from a press release anyway that no one's even going to see the duct tape on that thing.
The same thing happened with Prey. I forget where I saw this. It was either a review or a really late preview, but they actually line for line took the text from the press release and just put it right into the text.
Wow, we're working way too hard around here.
Well, we
talked about that before. I remember that was the whole hero's journey thing. And...
Yeah, that's exactly.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that review.
The only reason I remember
that's right.
The only reason why I remember that is because in my story, I put it in quotes and kind of called and kind of turned the tables and called him on it.
If we're talking about the same one, it was Jeff who did it.
Huh?
Are we talking
about
it?
I plagiarized?
No, I'm thinking of the hero's journey shit, and in your
no,
review.
I wrote it in my preview. I wrote it in my preview way before. But maybe he brought it up as well.
I'm confused. Yeah,
I brought it up.
Jeff brought it up.
I brought it up as a joke in my review.
Yeah.
I think I obliquely referenced that.
This is so okay. Let me back
too
this
insider.
Up.
We're getting
sorry.
Just real quick, so
bring it
people can understand what this is about. Basically, one review for a game had come out, and there was a line that seemed really out of place for this publication.
Yeah.
It was like, why are they bringing up this reference? And Darren pointed out that he had the press release, and that reference was on there, and so you look at it, and it was like, okay, so that's where it's like a review. This is really bad, actually.
Reviewing the reviewers, yeah.
Some publishers will put together what they call a reviewer's guide.
Oh yeah,
and they give it to you, and it's not like the manual or anything. It's like a list of points that they think are really cool about the game.
Here's things you might want to mention.
And in
your review.
Yeah, and if you're just a complete
and here's a score you might want to put on your
piece of shit, you'll just go and you'll go through that. And you'll write an outline based on or use the outline provided in there, and talk about these
key
and that,
points of our game include.
Yeah, and they are. I wonder if they're more based on the features and stuff. At least the gaming guides don't even break it down by the usual graphics and audio. And
I think you're right though. In my Prey review, I made some reference to.
Yeah, you did.
Because it all came up after the fact. So yeah, totally.
Yeah,
go back and look at that and piece together whatever
the story.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, sorry,
our own hero's journey.
We're rambling here on the podcast.
Yeah,
we're sorry.
We're rambling. So, but bring it back.
Bring it on back.
Let's bring it on back. Let's bring it on back to some evaluation of a game that you're playing.
Speaking some opinions.
Yeah. So how's that S.T.A.L.K.E.R, Shawn?
It's very cool, and I think my review is going to go up. Actually, my review might beat this podcast, or it's going to come out around the same time.
Really? So
come
you
on.
beat the game? You're done?
So yeah,
You just wrapped it up this
I can
weekend,
say
right?
the whole thing, huh? I might as well just not say the score, just in case there's like an hour or so that like this podcast beats the text
whatever.
by and I get in trouble. But I did. I can't,
Thank you
you're
very
right.
much.
I can't review games. I can't even talk. So yeah, where to begin on this thing? I solved the game tape twice, but I got the thing is, this is one of those games with multiple endings.
So you got 2 different endings so
I'll have
far?
to get to that, but there's 7 endings altogether, and it's got that annoying thing where I don't want to start with this. I'm already starting with it, but there's like 2 true endings and 5 like schlub endings, and I got a schlub ending. And that's kind of like a disservice anyway to tell someone they didn't get the real ending. But okay, starting from the very beginning, this game is great, and I think that if you have any interest in playing, first-person shooters, especially on PC, you definitely need to play it. If you look at what's happened to first-person shooters that are, North American made over the years, just like this game will put it in perspective and show you how, once upon a time you had, System Shock and Deus Ex and Thief, and there was like the certain way that things were going, and then all of a sudden it was like the reign of Call of Duty and Half-Life and this other sort of like very strict, very linear, people talk about a roller coaster, and it's a played out analogy for it, but it's pretty fair in that you get on the rails and various exciting things happen to you, and you have some degree, and you're able to. I mean, the choices you make are always just basically how fast are you going to go along the rails, and what weapon are you going to shoot with.
Yeah, it all went horribly wrong with Medal of Honor.
And those are fun games. I mean, even if you want to say that Half-Life is that way, I mean, there's so much about it. I don't want to turn this into defending what Half-Life and Half-Life 2 do so well, but it's a different type of game. And then I say that with Far Cry, the PC game, which I have to again clarify, I mean, because of some of our audience is listening and they only have console experience, it was a different game than the ones released by Ubisoft on Xbox and later on Xbox 360. But it was also similar, but it was actually developed in Germany. And you get the sense there that, like, okay, we're going to just create this large environment. There are going to be any number of ways to get through it. You're going to have missions and stuff still, but you're just not going to follow this specific rail. We're going to have to throw, some other elements in it to make it entertaining, no matter what path you take. So the trade-off has always been in that, obviously, just, Ryan, thanks for yawning. I'm just killing my whole.
They just had to take the wind out of the room.
God, man. I don't want to talk about this.
Hurt his feelings.
Well, of course, the difference would be this, this heavily scripted scenario where action, the highest magnitude, is happening every other minute. Stalkers are coming out and guys are breaking through walls and stuff, as opposed to maybe you take a path and all you're going to run into is like a dude with a guitar sitting out in the field and maybe a dog that's running around like looking for something to eat. That's not necessarily what you will run into, but that very well might be if you give the player that much control. Unless you're going to just cover the board like Centipede with monsters everywhere. I mean, that could be the nature of the experience. So anyway, it's that sort of game. Closer to Oblivion. It's kind of like halfway between Oblivion and then the shooters that we know. But I think it's just so much fun because, God, I'm so I was ready to talk about this. I spent all this time writing a review, and I'm trying to say different things that I say in the review without, to make something that's complimentary to it. But
well, one thing I'll say while you're trying to fish for the words,
bail me out,
lifeline. No, I mean I've been dying to play this game for freaking ever, man. And I came back, and as soon as I heard you had a copy of it, I called THQ, begged for an extra code, and started playing it this weekend too. And I had a lot of Vista crash issues. So it's actually it's known issues, and it keeps crashing in Vista. So there's a patch coming, but I tell you, it was totally it was like I felt like Sisyphus this whole weekend. I'd play for 5 minutes, it would crash. I would reload the game and quick save it, and I'd keep basically pushing the edge further as I can go every time. But every little bit that I appreciated.
No one told you to upgrade to Vista.
Yep.
Early adopters, man.
Bite me in the ass every time. I tell you.
So the technical, that's exactly what I don't want to get bogged in, the technical stuff.
Okay,
so,
I just wanted to say that one bit, so carry on.
I guess what I'm saying is that when I looked at this, the game feels different. And I was trying to identify what is the nature of the difference. Is it just because this is a game developed in Ukraine are the things that this game does characteristic of European games, or more specifically Ukrainian game making, or is it just time? I mean, because that's another factor. This is also a game that's been delayed. That was originally announced in 2001, in November 2001. And is it a matter of, and I think that's largely the case in some ways. If you take all those other games that I mentioned, Deus Ex and stuff, and you go back to 2001, it kind of makes sense. You're like, this was where things looked like they might have been going there.
Mm-hmm.
So then you take this game that was kind of like a time capsule, but then ended up getting retrofitted to come out today. That kind of makes sense too.
Yeah, they dialed down a lot of stuff, man.
However, and so let me just give some examples of the way that it works. Some of the ways I think it does really succeed in being a game that breaks itself beyond just the super strict rail ride. At one moment, I'm going down a path and I see, on my radar some blips of life forms, and it will indicate whether they're hostile, friendly, or or they don't not persuaded either way to fight you or to be your friend. And the reason that's there is because there's this clan system in the game, and much like Oblivion, where you can join one guild and you can have rivalries with, or you could be a vampire and have rivalries with other groups and stuff. You can befriend some organizations and make have beef with others. But so I go over, I see it, and it's just some guys hanging around this this torn down village, just trees grown through the roofs and inside the houses and stuff. And the guy says, like, hey, I have a gauze gun. Do you want to buy it for $800? I'm like, oh, that's great. I mean, the only reason I even knew what the gauze cannon was because I played multiplayer and unlocked it for a fortune there. And it's just kind of like a railgun, basically, So I was like, oh, great. Sounds awesome. I'll do it. And here's my money. And, of course, he rips me off. Sound too good to be true, and it was. And he's just like, ha, 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 fuck you. And then he goes over to his friends, and he's like, now get out of here before we fuck you up. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I happened to have just found a grenade launcher a little bit ago, and I had 3 rounds in it. So, I tested that out, and I blew all those dudes away. And I went back, and I took my money off them. But then I realized that I had spent more money getting the grenade launcher rounds than the $800 that I lost on the dude. So I still felt kind of ripped off. I was probably about $400 short still of breaking even.
So about the principle.
But the fact that there was even a moment like this, I mean, and if you're an RPG player, you're like, yeah, so what? And I do that kind of thing in every game I play. We don't always do that in shooters, And while I'm a strong advocate for the level of complexity and sort of the degree of intellectual engagement that shooters, especially multiplayer shooters, require, that is one type of decision that you don't ordinarily get to make. As simple as it is, it's very refreshing. Mm-hmm. Let me think of another example where you go somewhere, like say there's this large building and I'm supposed to get inside of it, and instead of having the path laid out to me, obviously, I mean it's marked on my map and I know I have to get in, but there's no clear way in. The front gate's locked. I walk around the whole perimeter. And I'm looking, and I can't really find a way in. And as I'm looking, I'm like, this is exactly pretty much, if I knew here's this complex and I needed to get in, this is pretty much what I'd end up doing. I'd case it, and I'd try to figure out what's going on, where the guys are. And then, like, as I'm walking by, I hear a guy, whispers out to me out a window, and he turns out he's a prisoner. And he's like, hey, looks like you're trying to get in here. If you do, free me, and I'll hook you up with something else. And that becomes an optional side mission you can take or not. But so you do find your way in, and then once you are inside the compound gates, they're just any number. I mean, at least 5, maybe as many as 10, just different routes you can go. You can climb upstairs first, come in the middle floor, come in through the basement, and just go in and clear it out and get what you need and get out. But of course, it's going to play different every time you do it. But just knowing that I can go over here and see if this is a dead end, or maybe I can go over here, and it's like there are no giant arrows floating around in the screen, and this is something I think that is characteristic of American games of late, and it's characteristic of the mass market nature of games. The more people, now that you have more and more people playing games, and especially games of this category, a first-person shooter, it's got to the point where you have to make games for everyone. It's like in the review I talk about sort of the no gamer left behind mentality, where if you're writing a book or having a movie, you can have a complicated section and people are going to skip by it. Maybe they won't understand it, but the movie's going to go on, or they could still keep reading, But in a game, that's it. If they don't get it, then it's just a dead end, So there comes the point where, like in Perfect Dark Zero, you got to put the flashing arrows on the ground and say, this is where you got to go.
Right.
Or in Japan, in Half-Life 2, they have the Survivor arcade game, and they're just giant arrows everywhere.
Right.
And that's an arcade game. That's different.
Didn't it do that in Call of Duty 2 with the putting the grenades in the
it does, yeah.
trucks or whatever? I mean, whenever you had to
a
blow
big glowing
something up,
a big glowing this or that.
It was like a mouse click.
Yeah, and whenever you have something like that, like say there was in Call of Duty 2 a mission where you need to repair wires, and as a mouse click, just like you're saying, it's an F. You hit the F key to fix these broken wires.
Mm-hmm.
But when that becomes the mode of interaction, then that's all you're really doing is you're going up to it and pressing F. You're no longer fixing wires, as if you had actually pulled out some tool and sat there messing with it while you're getting shot at. Maybe you had to go take cover, throw some more smoke, and go fix it.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to lose a few people, or a few people are going to have to like look in a manual or something. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the dangers. I mean, when you start making a game for every person and every single person is going to get through it, then the highest level the game's ever be is for the lowest common denominator.
Right.
So that kind of stuff is refreshing. It just feels like this game assumes your intelligence
Mm-hmm.
in ways that I'm not used to.
It reminds me a little bit. Your description of it sounds like Operation Flashpoint. Did you guys ever?
That's
play
another.
that game?
That's another game that it's definitely.
Okay.
I mean, that's people are going to want to talk about this game as in the generic formula. Take a portion of this and a pinch of this, or the worst case when they say it's equal parts this, and then they don't realize they have like an odd number. How can you have equal parts of a fucking odd number? Actually, that's from some preview that's out now for a game.
No, is it?
Yeah, equal parts.
It's like 170% or something.
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z. Oh my.
And
my favorite.
Another, just going on impressions, another, toward the end of the game in the town of Pripyat, where you're getting close to the sarcophagus, which is just where the actual Chernobyl reactor melted down, and they threw the big lead-containing facility over it. It's clearly late in the game. You're supposed to be getting a move on. There's snipers everywhere. Just a lot of guys are fighting, and you're like, okay, I know where I need to go. I don't have any reason to go check over here. I mean, just how big is the city?
Mm-hmm.
But I did. And it's kind of weird. It's like a whole new way of gauging it. Normally in a game, if you see a bunch of enemies somewhere, you're like, okay, it's probably worth going over there, because that's one of the ways that the developers told me that it's worth going over here.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's going to be an ammo supply or a cache of something. So you do that, and there's not in this game. It's not just for that reason, but there's like a whole I'm like, okay, I'll go over here, and there's a whole building, and you go in. And the whole thing's rendered, interiors, and I go upstairs, and there's guys to fight in it, and I'm still fighting and doing stuff, and I can take ammo off them and get their guns and stuff. And then I just keep going around the whole back court, and I'm like, to the point where I was like, this is just nuts. It's just so far away from me getting to the end of this level, and this stuff is just here. Like, who took the time to model all this and put it in when only like 10% of the audience might check it out? Similarly, you can go out in a field or something to find a massive... like a torn down factory or something. And again, in another game, if you see something that big where they've invested, like when you get to the bridge in Half-Life 2, when you see a bit of environment where they've invested such a great degree of labor into, you say they're going to make some use out of this. There's going to be puzzles in this thing. There's going to be enemies, scripted shit, train's going to come shooting by. And then, so you do, and you go. And the only thing in here again is like maybe there's like two guys that were in there having a sausage or something, and some birds up in the rafters, but you can climb up around in it, and everything is just rendered. And it's like maybe at some other time, depending on how things worked out, you could have run into a gang of wild boar or people or something. But it's just so weird. You just don't, because it's not cost effective. I can't imagine a lot of developers saying, yeah, go ahead and take 2 weeks and make a big factory. There's gonna be two guys in.
There's no
and maybe three of the people that buy this game will go check it out.
That's weird,
but it's awesome though. I totally love that kind of design.
How much of the game is like that? I mean,
that strikes me as like
a good amount of it's that way. I mean, it's not like I said. Don't get me wrong. Don't go buy it and feel ripped off when you realize that like you can't go any. You can't basically pick a compass point and go in that direction and just freewheel until because you will hit the ends of the earth in some way, shape, or form, and they might be they'll use invisible radiation cleverly to tell you that you can't go somewhere or this or that. But there's a lot of options. I mean, there's a lot of extra stuff that is just there.
I don't know if it's just me like being trained on easy games or whatever. But if I went into that big tower expecting something at the end,
like some
get it,
payoff.
Would you be like? Would you
feel
like
kind of
I
ripped
would
off?
feel ripped off.
Right.
Like
I took the extra time to do this extra exploration, so I should get the rocket launcher.
right, and it's
or at
just,
least
instead
like
it's just there.
cash.
Yeah, you go to
it's
the
weird.
roof.
I don't know if I like
That was that same thing. It's like I made it to the roof. I found the way up, and maybe that wasn't even obvious. So you're like, surely there's a sniper rifle sitting up here and a giant crate of like armor-piercing rounds, and then a bunch of guys are going to come running and try to take the factory back because whatever.
Because you hit the trigger point.
Yeah, but it just isn't there, and it's weird. It's like the whole point. I mean, I could be ascribed. Maybe this was just a messed up part. Like for all I know, like the guy that made it is
Forgot. They
it's
forgot
like
it was in the level.
yeah, we didn't. THQ told us we had to get this game out. And there's supposed to be a level there and whatever. But this guy thinks it's a work of art, so I'm not going to disabuse him of whatever.
That unfinished level's great.
But
But that actually would have been my like probably first thought is like, oh, I didn't finish this. Or like, why is this here? Like, I would have been disappointed.
And in creating, but I mean, going with my theory to spin it into something positive.
Yeah, no.
Like that if atmosphere is everything in the game, and is the chief success of it is just creating this world, and that's just how places are. They don't. It's like if you go out in the field, there's not like a tree and a rock over here, just so they can hide the gold underneath it, the leprechaun buried for your ass. It's like they're just there, and they're just like that's part of what it means to be there. And that's a very cool part of the game. Some other things about it does well is Darren. Have you got to any of the underground stuff?
I didn't get very far because of like my issues. But then again, I kept playing it, trying to get as far as I could. And let me see. I did the first bandit base.
Okay,
So I mean,
no.
I'm really early on. I just did a couple missions.
That's like 5 seconds.
Seriously,
yeah.
But that 5 seconds took me about like an hour.
Okay.
Because
well, that's gonna last you a long time then.
Well, no. Yeah, well, that's
because of Vista, not because of your shitty game.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. If it was running at 2 frames, that's why.
Oh no, actually, it was working great. Just whenever I would try to quick save or any kind of like change of menu state, it was just kind of like some kind of weird instability. But again, it's a technical issue that I know they're working on, and I'm still looking forward to playing the game.
So how big is it? Like, how long did it take you to bust through the first ending?
Straight run? I don't even know. I mean, Ryan, I played it for. I've had it for a while. I've been playing a lot.
20 hours.
I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah,
Less than that.
And you probably play fast.
But I didn't. I'm fat. I play these games pretty quick,
Yeah.
and I don't obsess over every side mission there is. But there's plenty of game there. That's not even an issue. I mean, there's definitely, and this thing is selling for like $29 or $39 bucks.
Yeah,
depending on where you
$40,
go.
yeah.
So it's like,
Cool.
you get game for your money.
Right.
So going back to some other stuff I want to say about is that if you look at it as an FPS with an RPG slant, it's easy to be really positive about things. If you look at it as like a true hybrid, where if you're an RPG player and you're expecting a fully fledged RPG, you're going to be disappointed for a few different reasons. The money system. By the time I finished the game, it was like I realized I had tons of money and I didn't have anything to buy with it or anything. There are only a few key places to get weapons aside from killing them and finding them, but to purchase them and stuff and to trade. All the items, and then you get in your inventory the artifacts that would be the equivalent of like, in Oblivion, you'd have all these different ingredients to make spells with, and you can, cast all these effects on your armors and stuff. And instead you just get, one artifact might give you resistance to radiation, but make you weak to electricity. It could make it so that you bleed out slower, but it burdens you. All these things like that. And in an RPG, it would be absolutely essential to manage those. Say, I'm going into a highly radioactive area. I need to just completely buff against radioactivity and do this and that. And you can kind of get by without really messing with any of that, And by the end of it, it just doesn't feel like I'm saying, it doesn't feel like they had really figured out a way to deal with all this. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can't just go like if you get to a really hard point in an RPG, you could teleport back to town and buy a whole bunch of an item or something. In this, you'd have to walk your ass away, and it could be a whole long ways away. Walk back to the dude and then buy a bunch of health packs, and you're almost better just trying to improvise and go from there. But the reason I bring up the RPG thing is like the undergrounds are kind of the equivalent, the stand-ins for dungeons in this game, where all the big quests and stuff end up in these underground facilities. But they're really cool because, I mean, usually like the dungeons are supposed to be oppressive and stuff in these kind of games, but in this game, it's like it becomes a horror game. And they do some really scary, creepy shit in there. It's like I was far more unnerved playing this than I was playing Fear, for example,
Mhm.
which positions itself straight up as a horror game, you know. And it's just cool things. I mean, sound is always key. You hear stuff, but there's these invisible forces at one part, and you're not used to this. You don't know that this is something that can happen in the world, but they start throwing things at you. There's these weird flaming poltergeists that sort of like a fire will appear in a room and just start like moving itself around, and you'll have to duck under it as it flies over your head, and doors are banging and stuff, and you get to see some weird mutant that the equivalent of effect, it like grabs onto your mind and like pulls your conscious out of your body up into its face. It basically gives you like this psychic raspberry and then it lets you go. I mean, all kinds of cool stuff like that. And it just was really, I mean, you're going around with your flashlight, you know, and Doom style, but it just, for some reason, it was just so like oppressive and just nasty in there. And I couldn't wait to get out. To get upstairs again, but it was fun. I mean, it was.
Is it because it didn't feel scripted and they felt like you were being more like you actually were being like hunted or something?
Yeah, and I just wasn't like it just took me a little bit longer maybe to figure out the exact extent of like what the hell was going on. That like, you know, you can figure out the extent of the monster closets in Doom pretty quickly or something, and that game still giving me thrills. But or in Fear, it was like, okay, these ghost guys are just going to keep coming out, and they do good stuff. You get false positives because out in the world there's, you know, these electromagnetic anomalies that will distort the air and space. Yeah. And then once they condition you for that for a good 3 or 4 hours, later on you get these invisible guys or cloaking. So you might think it's just an anomaly on the horizon or something that's blowing around, but really it's like some dude running like on loping at you on all fours, coming at you full speed, and then like right when it's in your face, you're like, oh crap, you know. So it does that kind of thing really well. Any questions?
Well, you told us everything. It sounds like the less you know about it, the better.
Yeah, it was I don't think I've spoiled too much. Just know that it gets scary and that it does, you know, that the underground stuff is actually cool. And even there I was happy because there are so many ways, like even the underground stuff is connected well, you know. There's so many, you go into a tunnel and you can leave in some other place entirely or use it to circumvent in some cases, you know, a lot of like fights that you might not want to deal with, but at the cost of being scared for a while.
It's cool because we've been needing a good shooter again. It's been a while, hasn't it?
It has been a while.
I can't even really think of the
for
last great
a
one
good
I played.
single-player shooter. I don't
Prey?
think even last year, that there was anything.
You have to go back to Prey.
And I like this. Yeah, I like this kind of experience. It's so much. It's so rough around the edges, and it's so like Prey will seem so much more polished and just controlled in every other way. But like this is like I would take this over Prey any day of the week. Just so much more rewarding to me, and it's just the uniqueness of the whole thing.
It's cool because this was sort of kind of getting, you know, a bit of a taint around it for being so late.
Right.
Yeah.
It was we were all starting to kind of worry, I think.
Yeah. That happens.
Well,
but yeah, once things come out, that all can be forgiven if it turns out good. I mean, same thing happened to Prey.
Right. And hey, you know what? If Duke Nukem Forever is great, if it ever comes out, it will get a great review.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, all bets will be off when if that thing ever ships.
Yeah, the time is, like I said, in this case, maybe it was a good thing in that, like, it, you know, at least from my experience, that the delay, that it wasn't trying to stay with the times and it wasn't trying to stay with the big Hollywoodization of the genre, you know. It meant that it does mean that the graphics, they do look great. I mean, if you have the right rig for it and crank them up, they look great, but it's not Crysis or anything, you know.
Well, the funny thing is, this came from an era when, like, it was. I mean, this was like one of the first games that was supposed to show off what DX9 can do.
Yeah,
So this was, like, what, 4 years ago?
Yeah, in fact, I think that's how most of us saw it the first time.
Yeah.
Was we didn't even see it as a game demo.
Right.
It was a tech demo that NVIDIA was making.
Okay. So they really succeeded then, because if you saw it as a tech demo and it was that type of game that was going to succeed or sell on the strength of its graphics, I got to the point where whenever people would come by in the office and see me playing it, and invariably the first thing they would comment on is like how it looked like butt to them.
Really?
You know? Well, I think when people come by to a PC, you know, like the guys from EGM and stuff come by, they want to see their, you know, like show us, justify
they want to see
why
Crysis.
you got to pay all these thousands of dollars to play these games on this thing.
Yeah.
And everyone just wants to talk about the graphics, and I was like, by my reactions, I was like, shut up about that. I don't care. Like, you know, like it tells me that the game is working. Like it's strong. The game is better than the sum of its graphics, you know?
And the best
it's
part,
just, it was never an issue for me. There's never a moment where I said, Well, there was one moment in the very beginning, and I showed Ryan, there's a dude's wrist that looks so jacked. And Once you get by that was like the only time where I actually poked fun and laughed at like how dumb
Like a
and
bad
like how
wrist.
bad it looked.
What was wrong with his wrist?
It just looked like if you took and twisted it, if it was like made of rubber and you just took and twisted it until there was like the joint was like about a millimeter thick point between two triangles.
Huh.
It made no sense because other wrists aren't like that. It's just this one. Maybe it's just like a birth defect on this guy. I don't know.
That's a feature.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Chernobyl.
Right.
Anything's possible. No, but it is kind of cool though that it may look like butt, but the thing is, it's a fun game.
It doesn't look like butt, but yeah.
I don't think it does. I mean, it just doesn't. Obviously, it doesn't look like Hellgate or Crisis, but you can play it on a 4-year-old machine and it's going to work.
Yeah, that was great too. Like at home, I mean, I'm playing on a 9800 Radeon card and it runs fine there. I haven't figured out isolated what the deal is with the work PC, the 7800. Why it's not working so well on that, but
yeah, we have these busted work machines.
Yeah, I really wish that it's moments like that when I do envy console where it's like we don't have to sit there and try to sort out how much we have to talk about this performance shit.
Yeah.
It's like I want to engage the game itself, not the fact that, like you're saying, not the fact that the Technicolor is broken or something.
Yeah.
And we have to at times if the game, if the game is not going to run for anyone, it's not going to run. But it would be nice in a world where, it runs. That's fine. Let's talk about the game now.
Well, you know what? The thing is, it's infinitely better than it used to be, and that's because stability in coding wasn't quite as good back then. So now, I mean, we're actually way beyond where it used to be. I remember reading entire reviews that were all about game bugs and game errors as opposed to the actual gameplay itself.
Well, that still happens now, too.
Well, but not nearly as often as it used to. That's for sure.
Yeah,
it does.
It happens.
So, I've taken up a great deal of time talking about.
But hey, that's a game we all wanted to know about.
Yeah, we definitely wanted to know. I wanted to know about that for sure.
Now I want to play it. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk about other things, including Peggle.
Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. But as long as you're here, let me tell you about EGM Live, the weekly podcast from the editors of Electronic Gaming Monthly, along with the wonderful sounds of... EGM Live comes action-packed with special guests, late-breaking news, fanboy-baiting commentary, behind-the-scenes tales of office tomfoolery, and trivia contests with fantabulous prizes. Download it now at egmlive.oneup.com or subscribe to it through iTunes.
EGM Live is part of the 1UP Radio Network, taped in the Ziff Davis offices in San Francisco. It is not actually live, and contest prizes are not guaranteed to be fantabulous.
And we're back. Oh. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was.
I feel bad. It's like I had to. I mean,
no. We asked you for the
This
spew.
was my week, I guess. This game's coming out, and I reviewed it. So
Right.
No.
Ryan, the whole time, it's not helping me, man.
Yeah, Ryan, you got to wake up. Think of it. Think of it as an
glowering
RPG.
at me with that evil eye.
Glowering and yawning. Deadly combination.
It really is.
He's either bored with you or he wants to kick your
His
ass.
eyes were saying.
Shooters make me tired.
His eyes were saying, shift 8, sigh, shift 8.
Whilst
I just read your review. I need to hear it.
So who else wasted their weekend playing Peggle besides me?
Yo.
Darren?
I
Right
played
Oh.
here.
quite a bit of Peggle.
Since I couldn't get Stalker to run properly, I was playing Peggle the rest of the time.
Completists
me
will
about
note that
Peggle.
the
Why would I wanna
Chuzzles
play
make
Peggle?
a secret appearance, a cameo appearance in Peggle.
Who does?
The Chuzzles.
The Chuzzles do?
Oh,
Yeah,
my
they
mom loves
they
Chuzzles.
do.
Wait, I missed them.
Did
When?
you notice the space levels?
Yeah,
Oh,
you know
yeah,
what?
the alien,
you
the
know what?
one-eyed
I actually
alien?
realized that many, many levels of Peggle were going by where I wasn't even noticing the background.
The background's
I was
okay.
just too fixated on the
That's
pegs.
some self-referential PopCap going on.
Damn. is Bookworm in it?
I didn't notice him, but
We'll
he
have
would
to
be
go
a
back and
good
look for him.
candidate for some of those.
I actually stopped looking at the backgrounds because they made them be as absolutely embarrassing as possible in every case. I mean, could it look
play
more
it
like
with
a game
with
for
your daughter
like a
and your
4-year-old?
wife, and you'll be fine.
Well, you
No,
mean-
they were actually the ones making fun of me.
My girlfriend plays it. She's like cute, like at the yak, the big smiling yak that's like got his nose up to the screen, and you like bank shots off his mustache or his
Right.
horns or whatever.
Right.
What is this game?
Yeah. Basically,
Yeah.
My wife Amy, she sees me playing it with like the unicorn levels in the beginning. She's like, "So you're playing it with unicorns now? That's what it's come to."
Yeah, actually, Ani, my wife, came in last night. I couldn't sleep, so I got up and I was playing Peggle. And, there's something about that game. I really, really love it. I'm totally addicted to it. But there's something so fundamentally kind of pathetic about it because
There's not a game.
There's nothing to do. I mean, it's you click one button and that's your round. Once you just shoot the ball and then it's just pachinko.
I remember going to Japan and wondering what the hell's the fixation with this thing. I'm just watching a silver ball drop down a freaking bunch of pegs.
Yeah,
and I'm like, what the hell's the point? And
Plinko, not pachinko.
Yeah,
you have some control. Well, decide how far to the left or right you're going to drop that thing.
Yes, you can sort of aim it. Mm-hmm. There, now that I've beaten it,
depending on how
times,
superstitious you are, you can sway it after it's been dropped by.
That's right.
Rubbing,
pushing the air with
rabbit's feet. Pushing the air.
Right. Then you have to start choosing which dudes you want to be.
Power ups or whatever you call them.
To be fair, I think the first shots are that way, and I'm not going to argue that this is like an extraordinarily demanding game for interaction. But by the time you get to your later shots, though, and you have a bunch of elements moving around and your timing, you're like trying to get stuff between.
It's true.
And eventually you will develop a pretty good intuitive gauge for where the ball, at least not past 2 bounces, but up to 2 bounces.
Yep.
And that can be like very helpful when it gets to the point where it's like you have so many balls to get like 40,
Right. No, I'll start going like, okay, I have 5 shots left. I've got these many. I know if I bank it off this. I mean, I'm definitely starting to develop some Peggle strategy.
Yeah. It's like immediate rewards for your intuitive assessments, and your risk. I mean, you're gambling. You're like, okay, I have to get at least 4 on this shot. If I put it in this area, I probably got like a good chance of that. And to see it play out, it's like...
That's like something at Golfland or Chuck E. Cheese where you drop the token in and then goes
down.
Oh yeah, it's totally like that.
It is like that. Yeah,
it totally is.
They should make a virtual
one
of
mustache
those.
if you turn in enough tickets.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
But there's no tickets.
There's no tickets.
That's what you play
Do you have any tips
you get
for
bonus points.
For the level of it's like the river banks with like the 2 floating circles?
Oh, that one was tough though.
Man, I was.
With like the dude in the boat going. I mean, the dude.
There's
the
like
tube going through.
Yeah,
the 2 inner tubes floating down the river.
It was funny that we were like before we started recording this, we were all talking about the relative strengths of each of the different characters that you could ball shooters
and different levels. Now when they come up, I'm like, oh man, this is definitely like a flower power level.
Yeah,
I know. Go with the flower.
But that though, I mean, that's like we're so close to writing a strategy guide for playing a Vegas slot machine.
You're right. So on the one hand, we're saying there's nothing to do, and on the other hand,
don't change your underwear for a week.
Okay, rally caps.
But this is why it's a great game. But there are definitely moments. Oh well, that's what I was starting to say when my wife woke up in the middle of the night and she saw me not in bed. Like she got up to check on me to see what I was up to, and I don't know if she thought she was going to catch me looking at porn or whatever, but she rounds the corner and I'm sitting there playing this game and she just looks at the screen. She's like, "You've got to be kidding
me."
Dude,
I know.
Because I just felt like bad. I was like, this is what you're up doing? I'm like, I'm sorry.
How there's like the pink balls are for bonus?
Yeah.
Like I got this whole thing where I'm like always talking about like touch the pink. I touch pink. And like Melissa comes in from the other room and it's like one of those scenarios. Like, what the hell is going on?
Your Pez dispenser in a certain way.
I think the big draw of the game, of course, is like when you finish the level, it's like how many ways can you heap on badassness to it? You got slow-mo, Matrix slow-mo on your ball.
You do.
You've got Ode to Joy.
The Ode to Joys.
The
makes me
rainbow.
laugh every time.
That's the home run.
Just the big giant casino-style number counters going through. The chance for one last game of Plinko to get the
ultimate
50,000 in the middle, and just it's 50 in multiplayer.
Oh, okay.
And that's what I've been playing a lot of lately. And then you could do the replay if you want.
Yep.
Which is so annoying when you're doing it in duel, like in the other person's like hits replay again, hits replay again,
When I was playing yesterday, I turned the volume up because I knew that the boinging of every single ball hitting the peg was annoying the shit out of my daughter.
Wow.
She was in her room trying to read.
You'd think they would want to play that.
Bang, bang, bang.
They didn't play it and get hooked at all?
No, she thought it was pathetic that I was doing that.
When I heard about it, I'm like, this sounds like Melissa, my girlfriend, is going to like it. So that's why I justified trying the demo on my own. And sure enough, she completely loved it, But then I saw something interesting, too. There was like my friend Rory, who's like hardcore gamer. We play all the shooters and stuff together. He got the demo, and then he just like disappears off of AIM. We were talking about something, and like hours later, he's like, dude, the crab guy or something like that. Just some utterance, Oh, shit, you're still playing it? And it turned out on the demo, he poop-socked the demo because, it's like on a time thing.
So
where
played
he
it for the
got
full
to
hour?
like the last damn thing, like the Zen shooter.
Yeah.
He's like the last character on the demo in the course of like the time
Damn.
limit thing.
Shit.
That's only like a 60-minute time demo, right?
Yeah, so he just like
Damn.
jammed through that bad boy. But
Pretty good.
yeah, so it's not
The
like
great thing is it has pretty good replay value too.
it does.
You know, you start getting into the strategy of which guy to try beating your own score. Then they have all the challenge levels, which there's a ton of those.
The PopCap games are over too quick though. I think after having done this, reacted the same way to. It's so
Bookworm
good
Adventures
that I
ended pretty
forget the
quick.
I
name.
think
What
this
was the fish
lasted
game
longer
that
than-
it wasn't
Insane
Feeding Frenzy.
Aquarium?
No, but Feeding Frenzy
Feeding
too.
Frenzy, that's it.
You were all
After like, and guys go back to it now. Now that like you see what the deal is with like Peggle, like that game
Yeah.
is rad. But you'll beat it in like 2 sessions, and you'll be all like, "That's it? Where's more?"
Yeah.
Like these levels are so easy to make. Can't you just like
well, we need the Peggle expansion now.
yeah?
Bring it on,
Kit.
PopCap.
You know, that's how it is with a lot of their games. Like Rocket Mania is one of my favorites that I still go back and play. It's like you could just keep, even if you beat it, you just keep coming back to it.
Yeah. This one to me, though, I mean, as much as I like it, and I really do like it, it really felt to me at times while I was playing, like, this is the absolute lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, play in the
Bookworm,
window.
you're making
That's-
words. You know, Bejeweled, at least you're dealing with
Yeah.
shapes.
This is
It's
throwing
just
rocks
like-
down a fucking
You're
well.
dropping a-
That's part of the appeal, isn't it? Sometimes you just want to I just want to drop something.
Like, could I be any lazier? Not
Yeah.
really.
Have it open in a window while you're like checking email or something. And just do it.
It's not even timed.
Well,
So you
imagine this though.
Yeah,
Now
it's not
my
even
girlfriend wants to
timed.
do the
Yeah.
duel all the time, and like the computer desk is like meant for one person. So it's like I'll pull up another chair, and like another chair, I'm like way far away, I'm like at this like messed up angle, like when you get the worst. I call it the parallax seat in the theater. You know, when you're in the front row on the far right,
Yeah.
and all you see is like a giant dude on your side of the screen that turns to a midget when he goes to the other side.
Shoulder.
So I'm playing it like that at parallax view and just trying to enjoy it. And I think I'm getting to the point now where, I need to take a break on that.
Does he use gamepad as well? Gamepad support?
I haven't tried. I don't know why you'd bother when
Well, I'm just saying, if
all
you-
there
if-
is is
if-
press a button,
Well, what I'm
turn
saying-
left or right,
How many keys do you need on your gamepad?
No, I was just saying in case he's stuck
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
lay
parallax
back-
seat, he could pull back a little.
lay
and-
back on the bed. Yeah,
you just chill back a little.
I see.
Come on, I'm not that lazy.
that might work. I don't see why not. Like like I said, there's left, right, and
Exactly. that's
shoot,
right.
and then speed up time actually with the other
I've
mouse
never
button.
used that even once.
That can be good.
For what?
When you're waiting, when you get to the big, massive whirligig levels later on,
Yeah.
them shits are spinning and spinning, and you want it to get to you want it to get out of your way or whatever, or you're waiting for like a certain trying to get that magic pink or the green.
Uh-huh.
You speed it up to where you need to
I learned
try
to
to
love the
Malloy's
pink
face.
later on.
touch pink.
It wasn't until my second time through that I started loving the pink. Now I go for
And
the
then
pink.
there's your
So
soundbite
Peggle,
for.
you got the soundbite. Peggle, turn Jeff into a lover of pink.
I love the pink.
The one thing I wish you could do though is if you
This is
could
like some foreign
if
language.
you could like
Get on the bandwagon, Shawn.
join the
Peggle bandwagon.
join the pink
Join
brigade.
the cult. Peggle.
One thing I wish you
We're
could do
gonna
though
get
is
so much shit for this. It's a podcast for
Forget
this dumbass to sit around and talk about pink. You'll notice I kept the nerd voice to a minimum too, because I got that mail, Ryan. I showed you. That dude thinks that it's making fun of you.
I know what's up with that.
Oh, no, that guy's right. He took
He's
he
saying
went
I
through the
got a-
trouble to.
Is
He
that
went
guy
through the
saying I
trouble
got a
to
nerd
nail me.
voice?
he cracked the code. Whatever.
What?
Is that guy saying I got a nerd voice? I mean, what's
He
up
is.
with that?
I don't know what's up with that.
He says that the whole. Not only that, he was
That's
like,
fucked up.
this guy writes into me, and he's pretty much ended the nerd voice as far as I can control
Oh,
it.
man.
Because if one guy took the time to write to me, and this guy knows his stuff too. I checked his blog out, and he can't write a paragraph without having like whilst and therein and thereby and sigh bracketed by a couple asterisks. I mean, anyone that's on that tip is going to be able to tell me that something's not funny right off the bat.
He's the arbiter. He's the arbiter of funny.
I'm joking, but I'm kind of serious because I really haven't really done the.
Was it a
done the
conscious
voice.
thing?
But he was like, but he was so. It's like you're making fun of your colleagues, and if you asked them, if you came clean and just said, they would all tell you, it's
Ask
got to
him now.
stop. It's
Ask
got to
Ryan
stop.
now.
Ask him.
Come
the
on.
question.
Okay, before I ask you though, he also pointed out, Ryan, that it was like a congenital like condition. He's like, you can't make fun of it. It's like people are born
This
this
guy's
way.
actually being harsher on Ryan than you are. Because you're not
I
picking
know,
on
dude.
Ryan,
He's
and
like,
he
these guys
thinks you
People
are.
are born. He gives me this too, like
this
just
guy's a real
straight out. This guy's
asshole.
straight out of his like freshman ethics class. Like people are born black, or they're born white, or Asian, or straight or gay. And they don't choose these things. I'm like, Dude, you chose to beat off to a cartoon because if you look at his blog.
Oh, now. Let's back away from this.
Easy
He
shit.
had hentai.
It's
Okay,
a family
sorry.
podcast,
Okay.
man.
Okay, but I'm like, you choose to beat off the hentai. You're not born like the part of your brain that responds to like images of aliens and like cartoon pederast scenarios. It was like grossly like deformed or bigger than that the average person. I'm sorry, man. I can't make fun of the fact that you review hentai on YouTube. But so anyway, Ryan, how is there any feelings knowing that thinking that I make fun of you?
This is our Oprah moment.
Yeah.
Do we need
Ryan?
do I need to clear a way for a hug?
No.
It's never about Ryan.
Of course
Well,
it's
it's
not.
It's never been.
I know I got a whiny, nasally ass voice. I make more fun of it than you guys do.
That's he also. Did you see what was the line about a deviated septum?
What?
Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that.
He's like, that's another
Sounds like Ryan
physical
needs to kick
condition.
this guy's ass.
I was like, okay, man.
You just
Yeah.
made Ryan's shit list.
I think I need to have a word with this guy.
Yeah.
I don't think
So-
you need to stop the nerd voice.
He thinks he's watching out for you, but
Maybe he's just.
it's like it was just backfired. Well, that's the whole thing. I think, and I mean, it's a dead giveaway. Like if you use "sigh" as a sentence, like in a blog or I mean,
Uh-huh.
you're trainable. Like I mean, I'm not trying to be too harsh, but I'm trying to be harsh. I mean, it's like that's like.
You're trying to be harsh.
Like that's why it makes you angry to hear
Yeah.
that voice because it's like
Yeah.
I mean it is self-deprecating but that's
Some
a
guy
little,
kept sighing near me in World of Warcraft the other day. Well, I was like
just
questing.
walking through
The emote?
Azeroth.
Yeah, I was like, get the
Slash
fuck away.
sigh.
Go sigh somewhere else. Why are you sighing at me?
Sigh.
Am I killing your boars? Get away. Sigh.
This is
Like
all-
typing it out.
This is also random, but it was a good excuse. I like to bring these things up
How about
because it
wheeze?
makes like people aware of like internet habits. So when you go on a forum and you're gonna start noticing this stuff, you're gonna be like, or maybe it's even you. You're gonna be like, dude, I almost just typed sigh because whatever. Satoichi-san announced that Game X is gonna be delayed by 3 weeks and 2 hours. Never mind.
Sigh.
Sigh.
Yeah, it's always you gotta do it this way. Shift 8, sigh, shift 8.
Well, don't let this guy get you down, Shawn.
Yeah.
He already got me down.
Anyway, we've talked about this before. This is not like a bullying thing. Like we're like the kings of cool here. Picking on the nerds. We're all
That's the
fucking
whole-
nerds
that's the
here.
whole
We're
joint.
We're
Yeah.
making fun of
Duh.
ourselves.
we're
Hello.
Games for Windows Magazine. How nerdy is that?
No one's getting laid with that logo.
Yeah. Maybe that should be the new. That's the new line that goes under under the name of the magazine. No one's getting laid here. Games
What
for
you write?
Windows
What
Magazine.
you write? Games for Windows official magazine, son.
That's
Yeah.
right. Represent the tracksuit.
It's kind of like when people, when I'm not, in an industry event or somebody, I'm like, my daughter's school's thing or whatever, and somebody's asking me, like, what do you do for a living? I always say, magazine editor first. Because then
Then they
I'm
drill down.
figuring they've got something
what kind
in
of
their
magazine?
Head, like
and you're like,
Esquire.
you so wish you could say Pet Fancy, Bird Fancy.
That's like 5 steps above.
Yeah.
Like, oh, my grandma subscribes.
Knitters Weekly.
Games are what now?
It's really weird. Now we're back in the tangent area. We need to.
Yeah.
We've been in a
Need to
tangent
reel
for
it
This
in.
is
like
people
10
were
minutes.
glad that we were gone, Jeff, when we were gone last week because
I know,
it was
see?
like not random tangent. And I
See
was
what
just-
happens?
I don't even know what I was about to say. Some random ass shit.
See?
What,
Nonsense.
We fuck up the podcast, you and me.
Utterances.
yeah, you two suck.
Oh.
Damn it.
Speaking of sucking, how about some reader questions?
Yeah, we could do that.
Sure,
we could do
we
some
got-
reader
we got
questions. Reel it back in. How long have we been talking? Where are we at?
1 hour and 10 minutes.
People
Wowzer.
like them. People
Holy
like them
cow.
epic.
An epic. Well, we haven't all been in the same room in a while.
Yeah.
This is true.
Let's see. There were a couple that I really liked in the reader questions. So
Read one of them.
let's look over these. Do we want to do that one? What do you think? Probably shouldn't be
Those
mumbling.
are the baby
into
ones, sorry.
this. Actually, here's one that I kind of liked. And I didn't cut and paste anybody's name, so I apologize. But this was on the message boards. And thank you, anonymous reader, for asking. He said, something I've always wondered. Are you guys, like, awesome with playing games in general? Like the kind you go into a CS game and dominate, like, 42 points in 5 rounds? If so, is this related to how much time you spend playing countless shooters and RPGs and just get used to them? I'm wondering because I play a lot of shooters and I'm not bad but not very good at the same time. So is there hope for someone of my skill to make it into the video game journalism field?
That's like a two-parter.
Yeah. I'm not even going to attempt because I can't write.
Okay, there you go.
And so, of course, that would be the big answer, of course, would be to learn how to write. Right?
Yeah. Well, then the other answer would be that a lot of people that do this aren't really that good at
Right.
games.
Right, that's what I was going to say. Is
Are good at games or writing?
Right. Well, then you're kind of, batting zero. But I tend to kind of mostly suck. I just actually love them, but I still play everything I can. And I shouldn't say that. There's certain genres that I can play very well and that I consider myself very good at. But there's others that I like and in genres that I would even review, but I'm not particularly an expert. I don't think that disqualifies you. Do you?
No, not at all. I certainly would not hold up very well on a Counter-Strike server.
Yeah.
Well, it's all specialties. I mean, like, Shawn's like the savant for that.
There's mastery too, where like you can not be the best, but you can know something really well too.
Yeah,
I think that's right. It's a matter of literacy.
Like,
I think.
I know there are people like the kind of games I think about where like skill like really. I'm thinking like Twitch stuff, like shooters. I play. I play a lot of fighting games too. Before that, I mean, I knew there would be people that would know like the systems on fighting games and stuff, but they wouldn't really be able to apply it themselves. They'd follow it up on the hardcore boards and stuff. I mean, so there's that there.
Yeah, that one side of it though. I mean, that's like one of the more common letters that I've gotten for years and years. Is like, I'm great at games. How can I get into your field? And like, well, those are two totally different things.
Yeah, that's like the worst thing you could ever. You could ever.
Well, go try professional gaming first.
It's like a lot of people who are
great at games.
Yeah. But you don't have to be great to be in this business.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just about
hardly.
I'd say I'm fairly average. I mean, sometimes I'm really on, sometimes I'm really off, but it's not like there's.
I'm really good at Mario Kart, but that doesn't really help me.
I always wanted to be like with a group of people I played with. I mean, I usually always was the best.
Yeah.
Like, it would start off with, I mean, it was because it was just a small fish. I mean, it was just a small pond, so it was easy to be a big fish.
Like, in like the house I lived in college.
And then online came out, and I was like,
I suck.
No, I was like, I'm still good. I'm like, that's cool. But then but then it's big enough where no matter how good you are, you're going to end up in some place and someone will like humble you so thoroughly that you're like, okay, I really don't even know this game. But like up until, I mean, I'm confident like any average person, like I say, anyone that works in the industry, like I'd bet on myself. That sounds cocky, but just like it's probably a fair chance, depending on the game. Like not on an RTS or turn-based or something. Although I do like turn-based.
Well, RTS is a good one because I would play a lot of those against my friends, like on a LAN, and then like as soon as the online RTS started becoming popular, I just did not learn the correct
the build
order.
Oh, God, that kills you on those.
And then I just like would get reamed constantly, and I'm like, well, it's not because I suck, is it?
Right.
Or is it just because I didn't memorize the certain way to do things?
Right.
People are clearly exploiting something in the design.
It's just a different level of competition.
One like exploit or significant piece of knowledge will make all the difference, and that's why it's like all bets are off the moment you go.
Yeah, there's
the moment you go like into the big wide open online world.
Yeah, the best example I could think of recently is I was playing Supreme Commander, and in that game you could set up your build order from the very beginning of the game to the very end of the game, straight from the get-go as soon as you start. So if they figured out the right build path, you are hosed.
Ryan, are you good? You good at ganking people? I saw you playing a little Ultima, running away like actually, you weren't ganking anyone. You're running away like a bitch from a guy that chased you for a good like 10 minutes.
What the hell?
Whipping on you. I saw that, man. Remember I came over and stood over your shoulder?
Yeah. I just started my character. I wasn't ready to fight yet.
It was so rad. Ryan's running, and this guy, Ryan's on foot, and he's just running. And it looks as janky as hell.
Keep in mind, we're talking about a game that came out in 1997.
Right. So the guy on a horse is chasing him. And I was like, I could tell Ryan just wish he could talk shit, but he wasn't about to when he like wasn't as sure of his like getting away with his like life intact. He finally gets to this boat and he hops in a boat, and I know he must be safe because immediately, tie. The guy's standing there like looking at him because he can't get in the boat or whatever. Right. But it wasn't that bad. You were just complimenting him on his fighting prowess, on his melee prowess or something.
On his manhood.
Ryan's looking at you like he doesn't know what you're talking
What the
about.
hell are you talking about, face?
There's a new character. Is why. You just make.
Is he making this up,
that's why.
Sean? Ryan?
No,
That's
I actually
straight
was
fact.
getting chased by a PK in Ultima
And you know
Online
it felt
the other day.
good as hell to talk shit on that guy once he escaped, right?
Carport.
Sure.
Like if he if he had killed you, it wouldn't have been fun.
No.
Not fun at all.
Here.
Call him out.
Okay, I'll read another question here. Again, sorry I don't have your name, but good question. I would like to know your thoughts on the recently released Geometry Wars for Vista. Not so much about the game itself, but the fact that it's a Vista-only release, especially considering there's already a hacked version with the OS check removed, and the game will play perfectly fine on XP. Does it make sense for MS to release Geometry Wars for Vista only when they could have released a version that runs on both Vista and XP?
I think it's awesome that we have Geometry Wars, and I would like to know where to find this hacked version.
Well, I'm gonna be a total dick, and I'm gonna say there's a bunch of free games out right now that do the same thing as Geometry Wars.
That basically just emulate Geometry Wars gameplay?
Well, Geometry Wars gameplay was basically ripping off Robotron.
Right.
With funkier graphics. So I mean, it was only
It's a bunch of
natural for someone else to
squares.
do the same thing.
Right.
I mean, there's Kent at Show. There's a whole bunch of if you just do a quick Google search for like